to this computer. Okay. So to anybody just joining the recording that's not here in the chat itself or in the Zoom meeting itself, just started recording. I've actually said a bit already, so I'll repeat myself a little bit and kind of set the stage now that I'm doing the recording. Phil reminded me that we should do a recording. I had debated, doing a recording, but it's a good idea to do it. So for those joining the recording, welcome. And I've got, here on my setup, my platform, I've got kind of a big monitor here. And so it kind of spreads things out a bit, when you're on a recording or when you're watching on Zoom. But with this way, I can go through different windows. So let me start with just kind of a quick overview of Fias, just kind of grounding people that are maybe watching this for the first time and just learning about Fias. So when you first start in Fias, you have kind of an initial area where you can enter text. Fias itself, is an app store. So we've got all of these different apps. There's a whole bunch of them in the store. And then when you start getting apps that you're using, you can go into your own worktop. And in your worktop, you can go through and see any of the apps that you want to use. It's responsive. So if you have this on your phone, you just have a bunch of apps that just, are sitting there just like you have on your phone, all the apps you use on your phone. And then if you want to, type questions, you can type in questions at the end of response. It'll let you know if there's any arches or apps, that are relevant to what you're looking to do. It'll update suggested arches over here based on what you type, right? So that's kind of the Fias system itself. And, Fias has its own, file system that maintains all the data. It's got its own support system where you can make suggestions or report bugs. We've actually been doing some kind of cool stuff with that, where if you make a suggestion or report a bug, it now automatically gets put into a to-do list, which I and the team can assign to other team members. And then we'll make it where that's kind of public and people can see progress and stuff. So all that's coming up. And so one of the big, features in Fias then is, building your own applications, building your own arches is what we call our applications. So if you go into the Arch Builder, then you can, create a new arch. And so if you want to create an arch, you can, just go into chat. It's the simplest way. Just type in what you want, right? So you can come into chat, for example, and say, add a button into the middle of the screen. And so you just, this is the new way that people are going to be programming. You don't have to program at a really basic level anymore, at even a code level. It kind of reminds me when I'm an electrical engineer, originally in college and training. And it reminds me of, I took a microprocessor class. And, you have programming languages that, sit above that level. And you really don't need to know microprocessor commands when you're programming. Well, I think this new AI revolution is analogous to that. I think you can program in ways that you don't even have to know the underlying code now. You can just have your concepts. And then you make changes, move the button to the top and make it red. When you're developing, you've got the interaction kind of area over here. Then you've got the preview. What it's doing right now is it's actually going into a code repository and adjusting all of the code. And then so there it made it red up at the top, and then it adjusts it and moves things around. AI is really good at building user interfaces. You could have panels and things that slide out, and just all sorts of stuff. Anything you want to do from a UI perspective. Make it so that when I push the button, it says, hey, Fias community, for 2 seconds, then disappears. And then you can check it on mobile, tablet, or PC. You've got a real nice undo and redo system. You can put it into deep thinking if it's ever having problems. It's a little more expensive, but sometimes it can work through problems more efficiently in that way. And then if you run into bugs, because this is beta, so there's still bugs, or even after beta, you can still run into bugs. You can create a report, and then we can go in and fix the issue for you. And then you can finally configure, the Arch and deploy it. And then start making money off of it. Within that purchase, you could add a subscription into your own Arch, anything like that. So okay, so I click on it. Hey, Fias community, 2 seconds and disappears, right? So you just type what you want, and again, it's this kind of new way of programming. It opens up where anybody that is just creative or inspirational to has an inspiration to buy create something, build their own business. It just opens up kind of a whole new realm. So I think I personally feel like the world is entering a new realm of entrepreneurship, and it's an exciting time to be able to build your own things. The Fias platform itself gives you a lot of tools that you can go and do this type of thing with Claude Code as well. But the Fias platform, if everybody could mute when you're not talking. So there's a little bit of noise. Let me see where that's coming from. So I normally have okay, looks like somebody. So when I'm sharing, it's a different user interface. So let me look where the general list of everybody is. Okay, there we go. All right. So I see where so let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So okay, so what I'm going to do in this session is I'm going to just go through a little bit of a demo myself, show people some of the things that I'm working on. Then I'd love for people to jump in and describe, issues you're having. I can kind of back and forth with people, help, solve problems. I can give tips and tricks that I've found, or programming with Claude Code, or just programming in the Fias platform itself. What I was saying just a moment ago is the Fias platform gives you a lot of the rails, both from a security perspective, kind of helping to make sure you don't run into problems. Or also, just capability, right? So if you want to build everything that's in Fias, even with Claude Code, as fast as it is, or Codex, or whatever programming, AI programming system you use, Cursor, for example, whatever, it still takes a long time to get all of the infrastructure in place, have a database in place, and again, do that in a safe, secure way. So Fias takes care of all of that for you, and so. So this is the kind of initial system. I mentioned you can also build not just with the chat system, with the guided system, and our guided system kind of takes you through a step-by-step process. I have a separate video that I've gone through that, so I won't go through that now. But you can also build in the plugin system, and so the plugin system you can set up like on Windows using WSL. So that's what these windows are here. And so, and if you come into Fias and you want to build, you can, say I want to build a plugin, and then you can say I want to build it on Windows or Mac, is what a lot of people do, and then say guide me, and this will take you through step by step. Just talk with the AI, say, okay, what do I do next? Oh, I'm running into this problem. This is what I see, and it'll take you through everything to get everything set up if you want to do a plugin. And I recommend plugins for higher end applications, if you especially if you want to have a multi-person team, if you want to get your source code onto GitHub, if you want to create your own CI/CD process, any of those kinds of kind of higher end applications. But there's a lot you can do with the Arch builder itself, just in the chat or guided modes as well. Okay, so then if you're building a plugin, you use Claude Code, right? And so you'll come into WSL. And then you'll start WSL in kind of a PowerShell, and then you just come in and you have to install Claude, and then you type Claude to get it going, and then you've got Claude to program, and Claude just works with English sentences. So just like ChatGPT or Claude.ai, you just type what you want, but then you can have it work. So ready to help with the Fias platform because it knows what we're doing, what are we working on. And so I have, over here are, different plugins that I've kind of played around with. I described a little bit of this at the beginning. I'll just repeat myself since we started the recording. But in between my robotics business that I had built before and the blockchain business, Devio, I built for a while kind of a smaller business that was a children's book creation application called Blackfish. And I used a program called Daz Studio to create a bunch of images that you could then plug and play and put into into the application, or into your children's book. And a parent could create their own children's book, or kids, or even if you wanted to create your own children's book and actually sell it, any kind of level of user could come in with this nice user interface and then deploy it, and be able to then have a children's book on your iPad or your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever. So it was kind of a neat business. App businesses were very tough even at the time I started, and they just got more and more competitive. And so it was a tough business to really ultimately succeed in. The customer acquisition cost just got driven up by applications at the time like Candy Crush. And so it became a really tough kind of financial place to be in, but I enjoyed the business and it was neat. So then, when I started building the plugin system for Fias, I needed something to then test, and I wanted to make sure I was experiencing what other users would experience if they were building a plugin. And I needed to have a kind of a robust test bed to try out different features of the plugin system. And so I thought, well, what could I do? And I thought back, well, I have this old Blackfish application and design, and especially all the images that I created. And so it was a good kind of application to use as a test bed. So that's what I started doing. So I'll show people kind of what I've gotten going on Blackfish. And so if I go into Blackfish, then you have your full source code package, and I have Blackfish tied into Git. And so as I make changes, I upload the changes into Git. And then once you've built a plugin, and Claude Code can take you through all the steps. You say, like, I want to create a plugin, and I have all the instructions again that I just showed on the Fias page. But you can get Claude Code to, or Codex or anything, to take you through and get it all set up for you. And then once you're set up and you're in that folder, then you just type in npm start, and the npm start gets the application up and running. And then you come in, and it tells you down here, it tells you to open in your browser localhost 3200. So then you come in and you open up localhost 3200, and then here's the application that I've been building. And I made these little bubble effects coming in. I have these little kind of, you can see a little bit subtle, but the little kind of magical effects coming out of the books. I created this image on Fias with AI, and then it overall is a book creator, right? So I could say create a book, and so Fias community demo, and you can make it a wide book or a square book, right? So you create it. And one thing that's kind of cool about this is I, spent years, probably a good 2 years building the Blackfish, application that I had on mobile, and I think I mentioned I had over 500,000 downloads of all my books and stuff. So, I mean, it was a good app, and created a lot of fun, children's books for kids to read. That's fun. But in a very short amount of time, just a few weeks, I've been able to recreate all of that work, and it's beyond where what you could ever do before. And so you can choose a background, or you could just generate it. This is a really old version. All right, I'm gonna do this. I have it working on, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop share for just one sec. I have a different WSL build that I have it up and running on. That was an old version. Okay. So so I start a different WSL. And one of the things that I do is I have usually like five or six sessions going at once. And so I have these different WSL instances. Okay, let me share my screen again. Now that I've got that back up. Okay, so share screen. Okay. All right. So I started my other WSL build, and so I like to have multiple things kind of going up at once. Okay, so CD home, so dev Fias, get Claude going again. Okay, and so now um, go into plugins, and then fish. Okay, so now same thing. npm start, and oh no. Um, should have checked this before. Okay. All right. So you have to do npm install sometimes also when you're first getting things going. And Claude will take you through that. If you run into problems, you just tell it what it says. Okay. So now I come in and then I go to localhost 3200 again. Okay. And then this should be the more updated Blackfish. Okay. So create a book, BIOS demo. I create it. Okay. Oh no, that's still the old one. Um, oh, I actually was updating it. Okay. Uh, okay, so I could do what's called a git pull, but I'll just show people an example. So this isn't bad that it's I've got this on a Git repository, and it was a different computer that I was doing the latest Blackfish work on, and so this kind of shows things that you could do. So when you're using Git, which is a source code repository system, and anybody that's again building a real application that you're going to want to build a business around, you're going to want to save all your source code in a repository. And so I could right now type git pull, and that'll give me the most updated version. But I do a lot of my Git stuff through Claude. So I'm going to do a git pull here, and it doesn't actually just call git pull, but Claude knows what I'm doing. Actually, um, okay, so I'm going to give Claude. So this is in the Fias system. So that was a pull for Fias, but I'm doing the plugin. Okay, so I'm going to ground Claude. I am building a plugin called Blackfish. It is at dev plugins Blackfish. So it's at that. Could you do a git pull in that separate repository? Okay. And so then it knows what to do. It asks for the command. Another thing that you can do that's neat in Claude Code now, and again, you can use Codex or whatever, and they all have their own things, but you can shift tab through different modes, and they have this new mode that's auto mode, and it does a good job of keeping track of what you can and can't do, especially if you have everything in a Git repository. Um, then you know it can make mistakes, and you can reverse those changes. There's a little bit of danger when you have auto mode on, but I found it to be a really good product. I kind of used it gradually and slowly in very specific situations. And so I didn't use it at first, but I've gotten comfortable with it now, and I trust it, now. And I've also got backups on everything that it could make mistakes. Um, Dropping the stash, since the classifier flagged it as discarding your changes. Okay, so Blackfish fast forwarded 60 commits, so it was way behind. So there's new library pages, canvas, character nodes. The only local change was incidental npm churn. Okay, so yeah, get rid of the stuff that isn't relevant, not needed. So again, it's nice you just talk in kind of plain English. So it tells you kind of the status. Um, so it's going to get rid of an obsolete stash. And everything that was current was on GitHub, for the Blackfish repository. Okay, so now you come back over here and you do Control C. I'll go ahead and do npm install again, just to be sure. And then and this is getting rid of that file that's not needed, so you don't even have to wait for it. Okay, so now I do npm start again. And so I could build most of Blackfish, maybe all of it, in the Arch builder itself. The Arch builder again is pretty compelling. I think there's probably a threshold if you're doing something straightforward. There's probably a threshold where it's cost effective to do it on the the Fias system itself in the Arch builder. But there's probably a threshold where you're doing something complex enough that you get to a point where you need the $200 Claude Code subscription. And if you're really using all of that, they give you a good deal for $200. I mean, $200 for a subscription in the scheme of things for what you're getting isn't that expensive, but $200 is an expensive subscription. But you get a lot for it. So if you're really a power user, you're programming every day. Like I'll program with 5 sessions going all at once for like a 15-hour day after day, and everything, still works within that 200 subscription. So there's kind of a threshold where working to a plugin system also is more cost effective as well. Okay, so this looks better. I see the fonts. I come in. All right, one more try. We'll call it the Fias, demo again. We'll create that. Okay, so now I go in and I say I want to create a background. Do I want to generate a background? Do I want to go into the library, or I want to upload from the vault? So I say I want to create a background from the library. And so this entire library is, this is running local. Yeah. Okay. So oh gosh, I should have done this on my other computer. All right. So I don't have the library on the local system when this is on staging. Actually, I think I have it on staging, so I wanted to show it in the thing, but I've deployed to staging where it has the library uploaded. So I'll just show you kind of the end result of it. Okay, so on staging, there's applications that you don't see on the platform, and so I'll come into the worktop, and I've got my Blackfish, book here. All right, so I'm going to create a book. And I'll say, so this is running on, the platform, and all I have to do is just deploy it to prod, and it would be the same thing. So, okay, so one more try, Fias demo. And so now I get a background from the library, and this has the full library. So do you want a sci-fi book, an Old West, fantasy? So let's create a fantasy background. And these are all the images that I did. So these are a little low res. These are like, 15, 20 years old. But the thing that's cool about it is they're great references, right? So I'll do this kind of forest. I'll do like a fantasy forest scene. There's a set of images I like. Actually, this one probably would be better for I'll do this study. Okay, so you got this background. And so I'm going to use that image. Okay, so now we got this background, and then you choose your character. So same thing. I'm going to choose a character from the library. I've got all of these different kinds of characters. Let's pick like, you could pick kind of like a toon character, or you could pick a princess or whatever. Let's pick a princess. And you choose different skin colors and tones and everything. So let's do this princess, and you can kind of choose what angle you want her at, that kind of thing. So we'll get a front viewing, and we'll place her in the book, and then we'll make it where she scales and sizes. She's got a shadow here. We'll make the shadow the right size, kind of come down, and then let's give her a character as well. Let's give her dog. All right, so let's say we want to add a dog. So I'm going to pick a dog that looks a little more realistic, just to kind of make the point. So let's get a cute puppy Dalmatian, and yeah, that's kind of cute. It's sitting there next to her, and then you can change the angle and orientation. All right, so you get this kind of cute dog. You place it in the book. If I hold down Shift, it does it. So it's got a lot of the same kind of capabilities that any type of real design application would have. Okay, so now we've got this. You can add text. I'll just say you know once there was a princess. Okay, now the reason I'm showing all this is I'm showing the things you can do with the plugin system. And so I'm just kind of going through and showing some of the features. And so when you have a font, I can view and choose these different fonts. So I built this interface talking to Claude Code saying I want an interface where I could see the whole sentence and see the entire font. I made sure that I had all the fonts that I want. So it's a princess story. So we'll get kind of a nice, pretty, font like this. And then when you click on something, you can change the color, the text. You have the different scaling. When I click on this, I can change when you're putting things in front of each other or whatever. I can rotate things around. So all of these interfaces, I told Claude Code build these interfaces for me, and Claude is just very good at building it. So this is a professional kind of high end design studio, really. Specifically designed for children's books. Now, this is really cool. I've built this whole thing. I've got these old style kind of animations, but then I say I want to, AI redo this page. And I went through and figured out how to implement this with which model works best, that kind of thing. So I want to create an animated film look for this image that I just created. And I don't have anything really added, to add to it. So I'm just going to tell it to create. And so now it's going to take that image that I created for the children's book, and it's processing it, and it's going to make it look like, like a Disney cartoon, type of image. And again, this is kind of a cool app itself, but the point is that in the plugin system, I was able to tell Claude Code, I want a system where once I've kind of put all these things in, including the full library of images, that's a feature that our plugin system has, and then I say to Claude Code, I want to have it where I can use AI to revamp these images, and I can create AI images from scratch. I can choose the type of style that the AI images come in, whether it's a background or a character. So you can use AI to create everything. Or you can, have the AI, again, revamp it using the library where you get the exact kind of setup that you want. And so, you get this kind of now cute dog and the cute princess, and it's a Disney style, and the shadows are a little more natural and the same kind of background, but it's all laid out, exactly as I want. So I built this with the plugin system, a really kind of professional and high, value application. So I spent more time talking as I kind of got into it, got into the flow. I wanted to spend more time today kind of going through with everybody kind of things they've run into it, make it a little bit more interactive. But, I thought it would be good, especially as I started doing it, it would be good to kind of show what you can do. And so features in this that are neat, again, is tying in the direct AI interactions, all the user interface stuff. Let's create one more background. Well, let me finish what I was saying. So we can create the full library. So having a full library of assets that you want to have, all of the monetization capabilities are built into the platform, all the database stuff, when you then want to export the book and share it with others, that gets put into a database that you have access to. So it's a really powerful platform to then go and deploy. And then the last thing I'll kind of show is if I come back over to this original local host where I was deploying it. So the local host 3200 is what it is. Once you've then kind of built your application, then you can go through and say I want to publish it, put all of your information out, validate it and publish it. You have to pay the fee to publish it, and then that's what ends up you would publish to prod versus staging, and that's what it ends up being. Then everybody else can use. So this is just a good demo of a lot of the power of kind of building a real application, with the Fias platform. And then what I'm envisioning for monetization for this particular application is right now, if you go into the library, I have everything available. I'm going to have a sample set, and then I'm going to have it where people can buy the rest of the library images. And the fact that you can then, take that library and lay things out, but still get an ultimate look that's what you want, I think makes the combination of the library plus the AI capabilities something that is really a pretty powerful application. And then uh, I make money as a developer on the AI side too. And so when a user comes in and just clicks that AI redo page, I get a percentage of the AI cost. I get 10% of what the AI expense was. So you could build your application around AI usage and make some money off of that as well. So the whole Fias platform is really built to create applications that you then monetize and deploy. All right. So I think that's a pretty good just background. Now let's jump into kind of what I was wanting to do today is just get kind of feedback of what people were doing, problems people were running into. Um, these types of things, people tend to be shy, so don't be shy. Jump in, tell people about what you're doing. Describe problems that you're running into. I can give some of my kind of again tips and tricks on it. So let's jump into that. And anybody that wants to describe what they're doing, describe any problems they're running into, just unmute and hop in, and I can let people share screen, show what you're doing if you want, and anything like that. So. And as I said, people tend to be shy in these kinds of things, so I can just show some more examples, or people can also drop questions into the chat. So here I got the chat open. So fire away, everybody. The point of this meeting really is to give people a chance to kind of go through your own issues and questions. So. And if we need to do a follow up where people kind of get a feel of the presentation, and then we could do more preparation on what questions are going to be, we could do it a different format as well. So. All right, so it looks like no specific kind of questions. So let me just finish out the presentation then with a couple other things that I'll just think off the top of my head. While I'm doing that, if you do have a question, throw it into the chat, and I can kind of show people, answer any questions that anybody has. Okay, so let's come into this untitled Arch that we just did, where I added the button, hey Fias community, it shows up for 2 seconds. So as you're building, and you could do this in Claude Code or in the Arch Builder here. How do I monetize my, you could say app or Arch. I'll just say app. Okay, so I've built this brilliant button that says, "Hey, Fias community," and now I want to get people to pay me for it. So you have in-app purchases. You can sell virtual items, premium features, subscriptions. You can have things be consumables. You can sell swords or coins or gems or whatever non-consumable for premium unlock. That's like the Blackfish app that I just showed. You can have it auto renewable. So you can have subscriptions. You could have a time limited pass. You could have kind of an expense that gives you a 7-day trial or gives you a month for a one touch fee that doesn't then renew. Pricing is in credits. What can I help you with? So again, just kind of showing how these types of things work. I would like to create a subscription for my button. You never know if somebody's going to want to day by day come in and say, "Hey, Fias community, what should the subscription be called?" Right. So it could just take you through it. So I'm kind of making the point, here. Uh, that's good. I'll think on it more. Actually, I'll just kind of show. So you can have back and forth and kind of figure out what your monetization, and it'll help you through. Let me do another one. You could ask these same things if you're in the plugin kind of system as well. I'll even just say, I am doing a presentation right now. I would like to show people what features they have access to in the plugin system. Could you list the features and capabilities for the Fias plugin system? Okay. So you can save things in a database. As you saw in Blackfish, you can create a library of assets. Database access is a valuable thing in a lot of cases. You have the various monetization capabilities. You have data access that goes for files that are in the vault. You can bring in your own npm packages. So let's say you want to have an Arch that has graphs. You can bring in an npm graphing package, that kind of thing. You can build user interfaces of whatever format you want. All right, so let's see what Claude is saying along those lines. Here's what plugin developers get access to in the Fias plugin system, grounded in the actual XDK reference. So text, and you can obviously interact with all the AI stuff. So you can create images. We've got a specific thing that you can take an image and get rid of the background around it. We've got a whole bunch of audio stuff coming on. You can create music, text to speech. So when you create a children's book in Blackfish, I'm going to make it where you can add your own kids music, text to speech, sound effects. I also want to make in the Blackfish app where a parent can record their voice. So let's say they go on travel and they want their kid to be able to hear their voice for a bedtime story. They could record their voice. I'll put that in. And then another thing is there's so many things you can do that you don't need actual bridge capabilities into the Fias platform. There's just things that AI knows how to do. So I can tell it, take the voice audio. I want to make a system where it analyzes voice audio that comes in and then updates each word and highlights it as the voice is coming in. It'll be able to do that. So I'm going to add that into the Blackfish app as well. And a lot of that is just Claude knows how to program those kinds of things. We have the data store, so a document database, collection query filters. Oh, we just added this semantic search. And so you can add in semantic search so semantic search, just for people that don't know, is search based where it's not on keywords or phrases. So a good example of semantic search is our support Arche. And in this is semantic search. So you say, I would like to create a poll. So when you say I want to create a poll, it knows everything about the system. It says you can create a poll using the polls Arche, create a new poll, into your poll question, add your answer options. What kind of answer options do I have? So the idea that you can have a kind of database that then you type English and it gives you English responses back. What kind of answer options do I have? It knows that now I'm talking about a poll. So I didn't say what kind of answer options do I have in the poll. It already knows I'm talking about a poll and I want to create one. It tells me here I can create a poll. And then it says you can do single choice, multiple choice, or free text, right? This is all implemented through semantic search. And so we've got the semantic search capability where you can access it through the bridge. So if you want to add semantic search into your Arche for your own support system or a knowledge database or just any other functionality for whatever you're wanting to do, you can add that in. This is a pretty neat aspect of Fias's workspaces. If you're building professional enterprise scale applications, you can go into workspaces and you can use workspaces and give employees at a company rights through RBAC, role-based access control, to do things. So again, if I come over here into the Fias platform, I come down into my workspace controls. I've got my own personal workspace. I've got a Fias business workspace and a Devio workspace, and I can add different employees into each of these workspaces, and I can give each of those workspaces roles. So if I click on the Devio workspace, for example, now I'm in that. I don't have employees yet, but I can take any account on Fias, and then I can give that user a role. whether it's owner, admin, member, viewer, and you can add different kinds of roles and stuff. And then you could describe what they do with those roles. Okay, so we have the workspace concept is a very powerful concept because it's all tied in with the data as well. So if I come into my the full data repository, I can choose what workspace I'm in. And so you have all your data for all your applications and all your personal data and everything. So if I use the document sign Arch, I can say these employees have access to these documents that have been signed, right? That kind of thing. And so all of that's built into the Fias platform. And so then what you can do then is tie that workspace concept into your arches. So if you build an enterprise app and you say, I want my customers to be able to give their employees, RBAC level access to the files that my Arch makes, you can program all of that in. It has a full access, you can create your own Arch that has full access into the Vault documents. So you could have your users of your app or your Arch save their documents, and their documents will be saved into the, really secure infrastructure that we've built for the Vault documents. Everything is implemented through Sandbox, but we have Sandbox storage, so you can save state, and you can make an Arch asset library. And then we've got the in-app purchase system as well. And then you can access any entity as well. So that's another thing I think that's important when you're looking at building your own applications. So if I come into the Fias platform and I go into the Arch store, I can then say I want to look at entities, and I'm going to say I'm going to browse all. I'll change it to entities. And so all of these different entities are all things that you can access with your Arch. So if you want to use Grok, like let's say Grok is a model that does some cool stuff, or maybe Grok image generation, which has some particular capabilities that other models don't. You can access all these entities in your Arch. So these are kind of system-wide, capabilities. But the real power of the Fias platform when you're building is then gain access to, over time, probably hundreds, maybe eventually thousands of different entities that give you access to any third-party system. It can be a particular type of capability. One of our entities is that background removal, kind of concept. And so the entity system overall is going to be a big part. And one thing is I'm describing a lot of things. I know the system well. I've designed and implemented it and everything. You guys are coming in and, this might feel overwhelming. None of it should feel overwhelming, because anything you don't know, you just say. So you say like, I don't really understand what entities are. So I do, of course, but if you're a new user coming in, you might say something like that. So you say, you just tell Claude whatever it is that you have problems with, and Claude and AI programs in general. So Claude Code, in this case, that particular product, are just amazing. You have somebody at your fingertips that's willing to just mentor and tutor you as much as you need at whatever level you're at. So nobody should feel intimidated by any of this. You don't need to know anything that I just described. You just come into Claude Code and you just say, I want to do this. I don't know what you're talking about. Could you explain that more? All that's too complex to me. Look, just tell me what I need to do to get this functionality working. You can say all of those things, and Claude will just take you through. Want me to fold a plain English? What's an entity box into that slide artifact? Oh, so it already is in the context that I'm kind of building stuff. But so it tells you what entities are, image generator, examples. So this is just a good way to build applications. It's just whatever level you're at, just tell Claude Code or Codex or whatever you're using what you need, and it'll take you through and do it. And we've programmed it in a way where it has all the understanding it needs to know what it needs to know, and it can help you then teach you and build for you whatever you need to know and whatever you need to build. Okay, so that's a little bit more information on the types of things you can build and what capabilities you have. I have a couple questions over here. So the advertising growth Arch you mentioned, how does that actually work for individual Arch builders? So what that's going to be, that's a good question. And that is soon going to become my main priority. A little bit kind of roadmap wise on my personal plate. I have two things coming up that are really important additions. One is I'm going to expand the Fias AI concept so that you can have all of the arches interact with Fias AI and all the data from the arches communicate and interact with each other. And so you could say, for example, you'll be able to come in right here and you'll say, send an email to Paul and let him and include the attachment that I was working on this morning and schedule a calendar invite for him for Friday at 2 o'clock. You could type all of that, and the system will check your email, check your contacts, understand who Paul is, understand you were interacting with this guy named Paul yesterday. That's probably who you mean. Check what presentation you were working on, and then check your calendar and create an invite, and it'll do all of that. It won't take me too long to build all of that. I've got all the infrastructure mostly in place for that. And so having an AI system that can talk with all of your data across all the arches, and you have a platform where you can have any arch that does anything, any application that does anything, that's going to be huge. I mean, that's going to be so powerful. So I'm working on that. And then as soon as I finish that, then I'm going to work on the Arch, the advertising optimization Arch. So all it'll be is an advertising optimization application, an Arch. And so you come into the Arch store and you say, I would like help, getting users for my Arch, or I would like to do advertising for my Arch. And then it'll come up and it'll have the advertising optimization Arch, and you'll just click on it and you just use it. It's just an application that you use, and it'll be easy to use. And I'm going to start using it to grow Fias, but it'll be a tool that every other user on Fias can use to grow their applications as well. And AI is very good at the things that we need to do for advertising optimization. It'll be able to create the content. It'll be able to set up all the A/B testing. It'll be able to give you all the feedback from the advertising platforms that you're going to want to use, like Google, for example. And it'll be able to hone the funnel that you create for your advertising. When you're advertising, what you generally want to do is get as many people to see it as you can, but then they each take a step. Maybe they click a link. So that's a step down the funnel, right? And you lose some people. A lot of people don't click the link, but those that do click the link and then they see something. Well, you want them to take a next step. Well, depending on what they see, you'll get a higher percentage of people down each step of the funnel. And so you can get AI to A/B test, test one thing, one approach versus another, and optimize every step of the funnel till you ultimately get down to somebody that spends money. And if you get to a point where that funnel is optimized enough, you ultimately get to a point where you put in $1 and you get more than $1 out. That's what every business ultimately needs to do, right? And so the advertising optimization Arch is going to be a tool that we use to grow our business, that everybody else can use to grow their business, that everything is automated, and you kind of hit go, put some budget in, and you should be able to, optimize and over time get to a point where you then cross that threshold where you can make your business profitable. So I like that question because that's an important thing that's coming up.
Tom, on the advertising arch, um, will you be able to have like areas that you want to target? Let's just say that you wanted to do TikTok advertising or Instagram ads, the actual ads on these different platforms. Is that what it's going to cover?
Yeah. So like everything, you got to walk before you run. And so we'll start with, kind of the big advertising platforms like Google, like AdWords, right? And so we'll start with something that everybody can use to get going. But then, yeah, you'll want to have it ultimately where you can advertise on Facebook or, any video platform, any other kind of gaming specific advertising, whatever your area is, so yeah. Well, and that's again the philosophy of the entities is that overall over time we build more and more interfaces into more and more third-party kind of areas, categories, businesses, products, whatever, and each entity then gives you access into that. So the advertising optimization Arch will have a suite of entities that lets you advertise in those platforms. And then those platforms will expand over time as we add more and more entities. So everything in Fias is modular. And so the advertising optimization Arch will use that modularity, and there will be advertiser entities. And so we'll just keep adding over time more and more advertiser entities.
Yeah, because I think the biggest problem with advertising is, people might know where to go to do it, but as soon as they open it up, they normally lose their money because they don't understand about how it should look, how it should feel, the messaging, the funneling,
Totally.
and more importantly, A/B testing. So will it include like all of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the advertising optimization arch is going to automate and optimize everything. So that's a big part of the point. So I learned a lot in doing Litcraft advertising maybe a year and a half ago, and I learned that whole process. And I had expensive platforms that I used to get the data. I don't need those anymore. I just built it myself, right? And then we had expensive processes to create content. Well, AI can create the content now, and so all the barriers I ran into ultimately making that successful, I can implement with AI now. And I'm going to do what any good arch does is you take your expertise, you codify it, you turn it into a process, and then you let everybody else use it. So from then on, you don't have to be an advertising expert or a marketing expert. You just figure out what it is you want to do, and then the platform and the advertising optimization arch will do it for you. So I think the advertising optimization arch may end up being our most valuable arch. It's definitely going to be one of the most valuable. It's a really compelling concept, and it'll let everybody kind of build and advertise, using the expertise built into the arch itself without having to
Yeah.
be a real expert yourself. And you just focus on what you want to build, your area of expertise.
Yeah, the market for that is going to be absolutely massive. My brain's already
Totally.
ticking, and
And
I'm
and
sure
then
you know why.
yeah, and then think of what that means for the platform too, right? If
Yeah,
if everybody can come in and easily create applications, you can easily set up, the features that you need to monetize and deploy. And then everybody then has the automation capabilities to then grow it. You end up with a platform that could just have massive growth and brings in more and more people. And then every person that somebody else brings in maybe sees your arch. Every person that Fias brings in, sees, all of our contributor arches, and so a platform like Fias, you could see the strategy that we're building where things could just explode, right? And so, Fias is early stage. It's a tech company. There's a lot of risk innately always with tech companies, but man, the way that we're building stuff, I could see where things can just get going and you really get a snowball, rolling down a hill. So, um, okay. So next question. So what I'll do is I'll go through questions, and then at the end of the questions, if anybody else wants to jump in and just ask a question with voice, or again, if anybody wants to share what they're doing or ask specific problems they're running into that they need help fixing, that kind of thing. So, well, another thing I'll show is a place that we kind of handle some of that stuff too is you go into the chat arch, which we use to replace the Slack, and we have a nice community chat in here, and you can come in and ask questions here as well. So, okay. So the next one, what's the timeline on cross arch integration? Being able to pass data between arches like calendar, contact book, document sign. Okay, so already right now you can save files, and then these other arches can access those files. So users can already do that. Part of what I was describing where I'm building the Fias AI is I'm going to build a more formal, you almost might think of it as user interface or not user interface, application programming interface. So API. So it's not literally an API, but it's going to be like an API like functionality for each arch that arches can communicate with each other, and it'll be built on a security platform and foundation and philosophy. But that's the thing I'm working on next, right? So again, I'm building this new API integration with all the arches and AI integration with those, including web search. So that's my next project. And then I'm going to do the advertising optimization arch. And so those two things are coming up. And the first of those projects is going to be adding more functionality for different arches to communicate with each other. Okay, when you say a ton more arches, is that all public and searchable in the marketplace, or does that include unlisted and in development? So we are building a lot more arches. Right now you can come in and go into the worktop, and you can go into this add featured, and you can see arches that we've already got and the subscriptions that we replace. A big part of what Fias is a place where you can get rid of all your other subscriptions, have all your apps in one place, and then have all your data in one spot. And the combination of all your apps in one spot and all the data in one spot, that's huge. But then you can see a whole bunch of other things that we're working on right now. And a lot of these are like the email arch is basically done. It's the best email program I've personally used. And that's, I kind of customize it to what I want, but it does some cool stuff. Like it's a really nice arch. And then we're going to integrate more and more AI functionality into it too. So just go into your worktop and just click on this add featured button, and you can see some of the other things we're working on. Um, I was showing before on staging. I'll give people kind of a quick peek into this. Okay, so we're back on platform. I'll switch back over to the staging site. So there's different arches that we've got on staging that we haven't pushed forward yet. So I'll just show you some of the games, for example, that we're working on. We've got all the so we've got the pickaxe game that people really liked. Our fruit game, Minsweeper, Spiritual Racer again. So a lot of these people recognize these, from the games that we had been building in Litcraft, and then we've got a new user interface for Litcraft. I'm not quite ready to show that, but it's pretty cool. We've got a whole new Litcraft, kind of interface. I won't steal my own thunder, but like here's a good example, just a game lots of people like. So you come into Solitaire, you open the Arch, and so you can play one card or three card Klondike, and then just a regular kind of Solitaire game. So let's find a match. This was a bad draw here. I'm gonna do a new game. Okay, so here's a new game. Let's see if they got a little bit better. Okay, there's a king. 5 goes on a 6. 8 goes on a 9. Or, geez, another bad. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you throw the queen on there, jack on there. Now we got an 8. So just a regular kind of solitaire game. Got the ace, the 2, right? So, and then we can go back to the menu. And then this is, you can see it's all full page. This is running in Fias, so staging.fias/solitaire, but it looks just like the game itself. So you'll be able to just create games that you just get on and you just play. And we've got some new games also that are really powerful games that are entire kind of ecosystems within themselves, in addition to the Litcraft stuff. So yeah, we've got and then we've got a whole bunch more applications outside the games, but the games is just kind of one. The gaming category is just one category. So there's a bunch of stuff in the works. We're getting ready to get to a point where we could deploy those onto prod. And then, I think people have already started building. There's going to be more and more, user generated, contributor generated arches as well. So, okay, to grow my user base as an arch builder, should I be relying on Fias itself to bring me customers to the platform, or I need to drive my own traffic and marketing? So in the early days, you need to be, Fias isn't a magic bullet, right? If you're going to build your own application, build your own business, you got to build it the way everybody's built things, including competition from others and all that. So you got to do it yourself. And Fias will give you the tools that help you to do that. But building any business is tough. The good news is AI can let you do so much more that you didn't used to be able to do. And Fias is creating a platform that not only lets you build and deploy your arches and then soon market and advertise them, but also do all the other things around your business, including like we've got a bookkeeping arch that's going to be coming out. And so you'll be able to run a lot of your business, manage your Slack, instead of buying a Jira subscription, use our to-do list that you can give your programmer stuff, to do, assign it to them. So we've got a lot of the tools that you would want to build your own small business on Fias itself. So we'll help with a lot of it, but you need to drive your own traffic and marketing independently. Longer term, as Fias grows and really starts getting bigger, we get a bigger user base. It would be a great place for people to get visibility around their arches. But even that's a two-sided sword, because as Fias gets bigger and bigger, there's more competition, and even there's more eyeballs looking at it, you're going to have more competition for those eyeballs, right? So always ultimately you have to take your destiny into your own hands with your own business and drive and figure out how to bring customers in, and hopefully our tools will be very valuable in making that happen. Okay, Oldie, one of our great supporters, can you create a beta zone as a place where builders can invite others to test their arch before main release? So you can do a private release, and then you could give people the link to it. And so it's not discoverable, but it's usable. And so you could kind of manage that yourself right now. I do. That's a great idea. Is creating um, a beta zone. So beta zone idea. I'll mark that and put it into my list. And you could put that as a suggestion into the Fias support. So you go into support Fias, make a suggestion. Let's do it. I'll show people how this works. This is kind of neat. Um, Beta zone. I would like to create a place for my users to test my Arch in a beta way. Okay. And so submit that suggestion. All right, it's submitted. All right, now on the back end, what it did is I'll show you the back end. So I come into the roadmap on the back end. I have suggestions going to this Fias suggestions that I created. So I go into my worktop. I come into the to-do list. I'm in the Fias work. And so now I go into Fias suggestions, and that shows up here, create a beta test zone for users. Then what I'll be able to do is I'll assign that to one of my programmers. So actually probably this week or next week, I'm going to get all my programmers into this system, and I can start telling them, let's work on that, that kind of thing. And then I can go into settings and I can make this Arch public. And then everybody else can see, these things that are working on. And if somebody else sees this and says, oh, that's a great idea, they can enter the same thing and it'll get a little +2 here instead of a +1. So as people start getting used to our, and this is true with bugs as well. So our bugs and suggestions things, then they can do it. This, I wrote that on purpose with a bad title. I just wanted to see what happened, make sure the system processed it, and I since fixed that. That says you can't it'll actually. I wrote beta zone. You can see it. It created a subject line that's better. Create a beta testing zone for users. So the need this doesn't go anymore. And and then once somebody does it, I check this, right. And so once it does it, now it goes into a verification mode. And then I can come in and say, what are the ones that are in review? So I could have a difference between my developers that that are going through and fixing things, or my staff that does reviews, and then they got to go in and test it and then give it kind of a final approval. And again, these are professional level tools. Like you spend a lot of money with Atlassian or other products for having these kind of capabilities. All tied together. And this is all stuff that people can put into their own business too. All right. Hey Tom, I missed the first half, but will this be recorded? So yes, it's being recorded right now, and I'm gonna put it out. Where can we watch this again? So thank you, Ray. So we'll post the video. Fias is the future of vast ecosystem, very easy to use. It's going to boom. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Nice comment. I'll say as a general rule, I appreciate everybody that's been supporting us. Our community is just awesome. So we're going to all grow together. And it's neat you guys are in here kind of from the beginning. What's the best way for me to get feedback from real users once I publish? So early on, you have to kind of reach out to your own network. Again, you can start doing the advertising with the advertising optimization Arch. And so that's kind of a classic problem. And we'll put tools in Fias to do it, but a lot of that is on you to kind of go and feel things, and get that going. I 40% commission on beta zone. So yeah. All right. Oldie 40% commission. So I'm joking with you there, but that's funny. All right. So what's the best way for me to get feedback? Okay. So yeah, I was saying you gotta kind of build that in yourself. I don't mind if people on our Telegram chat or in the community chat, say, hey, I'm building a new application. I'd love people start testing it. I want to keep those chats from really becoming just a spamming advertising kind of place. But if you're just announcing what you're doing, tell people about it, it's ready to go, and you want testers, post in our community as well, and that'll be a good place to do it as well. All right, good. I'm glad some people jumped in with some questions that led to some extra stuff that we were showing that's pretty neat. So any other kind of comments or questions? Anybody wants to jump in and voice describe anything or describe what they're doing now? So there, Nathan wrote, can an Arch do an analysis from a mix of AI models gathered from web search now and in beta? So yes, it can. So a good example of that is our Learn Anything Arch. I think I have that in my work talk. Learn Anything. Actually, oh, this is staging. Go back to platform. I'm in my worktop. Yeah, it's okay. So there's Learn Anything. So the Learn Anything Arch, if you want to build your own, topic, you can come in and you can build it. And when it actually goes through and builds it, what it does is it says, I want consensus between two high-end smart models, so that I don't get hallucinations. And these models are getting to a point where hallucinations are much more rare. And so even one model having a hallucination when you're doing something kind of standard like this, like building a course around kind of established, category, probably won't have a hallucination, but having a review from a second AI really kind of makes it, from a feasible perspective, just extremely unlikely that you'd have um, a, a hallucination that makes it through. And so there's lots of different models. Like if I come in, for example, I come into the image generator. This is a good. So I always do this demo where I say, a monkey wearing a cowboy hat riding a pig. This is a demo I did before. And so, but I came in here because you can browse all the models. So these are all the image generation models we've got. And so you could do the same thing. You can compare between two models and let a user, see them. If I come into the multi AI, then you can. There's another demo I do, which came first, chicken or the egg. So I do new, and you can see the different models that we've got. So we got right now Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Grok, and then each one of those, you can see the different models that they've got. So you can find all the models that we've got. Claude Code knows it when it's programming too. You can say what all models are available to me, and then yes, you can then have them interact with each other, check each other, verify and validate. Those kinds of things. Okay, how close are you to finishing the beta? What does transition actually look like? So, I just turn it off and I just make it where people don't have to have a beta key. I'm not positive how close we are to it. I am learning, good things. I had a billing, mistake, that came up over this kind of first month. I've been, a lot of the support stuff that I just showed a few minutes ago. People started jumping on and then putting in support and tickets, and I wasn't able to keep up. And then I thought, I'm gonna have to train one of my people. And it's like, well, maybe I should just instead, put together an automated system. And then instead of getting, one of my employees up to speed on it, I can automate a lot of it, and then it's a shorter scale getting them up to speed. Those types of things where you're running in beta is good. You find mistakes that could be critical mistakes if tons of people were in, and then you hone in the interactions where you're making sure the experience for people is as good as it can be. So I'm still at a point where I'm kind of feeling out and getting stuff going. But that said, it's getting pretty close. The system is robust. There's not really that many bugs in it. There's lots of features that you'd like to add. But even there, like a lot of the applications themselves are pretty robust already. And so I think we're getting pretty close to being able to put the beta out. Also, discount for stakers is a good idea also. Yeah. So that's a good concept. I think there's the whole token side of everything that we're looking to do, and I haven't integrated tokens into Fias yet. I've got a lot of update that I could do on the DevX platform, and a lot of progress there. And I'll be able to give a video presentation on that, soon as well. But for what it's worth, I definitely do keep in mind all of the token supporters and the token side of things and everything we're doing towards the long-term future of what we're going towards. So definitely. One more feature that would be really helpful is an estimated credit cost before creating a project or architecture. So that's good. So the system does a pretty good job of showing you as you're getting going. So like this, untitled arch that I just did. Um, so those few buttons, you can see I used credits on that. I'm going to put more visibility onto credits, like in the multi AI they just showed. I actually want to show the credits there too, because I want to be able to have people test between different models and get a feel for pricing themselves. It's a little tough to really estimate, what an arch is going to cost. I could start to build as we get more data. Actually, that's a good point. As we get more data and we're building more and more arches, we actually will probably get pretty good at estimating that. So that's a tough thing to do in general. But as we get more data, actually, we probably will be able to be pretty good at it. So that's a good point too. So why don't you real time go in and put that as a I'll make a note myself just to be sure. Um, Arch builder estimates. That's a good idea. But go put it in yourself and just see how it goes. And then soon we're going to have the public facing version of that, creation thing of the going to support the suggestions. Okay. Purchase management credits accordingly. Yeah. And you also, when you're purchasing, I mean, you can come in and you can buy small increments and get going and test it out a little bit and see how it's going and say like, all right, well, I've spent $5 already and it's about half done, kind of my own feel of the complexity of it. It's worth spending another $5 or $10, that kind of thing. So, okay, good. So I think that's probably good for today. Ran a little longer than yeah, nice oldie. So I think that's probably good for today. Ran a little longer than I was originally thinking, but appreciate everybody's attendance. I'm glad we videoed it, because a lot of this is stuff other people want to see as well. So part of what I was hoping for this was people would jump in and say, I'm building this, I'm running into these problems. I think that would be a good session, and I'll make it a little more clear that that's more specifically what we're wanting to do. I think one thing that would be valuable is, I hop in and I start, showing you the way that I type, the commands that I create, the way that I interact with Claude Code, the tips that I use, kind of like this auto mode. I think that would be pretty valuable, and that would be something that would be I think useful for others, because any problem anybody runs into, there's probably 100 other people that run into that problem too. So we'll do another session with a little bit more of that type of feel. But this I think was a good session to kind of start to let people get a little more grounded in what building arches is. All right, so I'm going to stop share there. All right, well, thank you everybody. Appreciate everybody hopping on today, and either in the Fias chat or in the Telegram chat, follow through and let me know anything else, any other questions anybody has. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.